Who's involved? Usually, again, we've talked about this some, executive sponsors, business owners. You would typically have some analytics developers who are helping you do some of the stuff like Ayden was doing before, helping you connect to the right data, understanding the data that needs to be a part of these things, making sure the integrity is right, and showing you how that stuff can be brought out. Data engineers, ML ops, security and compliance. Again, you can see all the different things in here. I would say not all organizations that we work with have all these parts. Somebody usually takes on these roles. So as long as somebody's kind of looking at each one of these different areas, it's kind of what we look at to kind of make sure everything's covered. And I'm not going to get into that one. I will say, and I added this poll lately and we weren't able to get into it, but I was just to kind of take a look at it. I was curious which Gen AI use cases that create the most value for folks. And this is one of those things, I apologize, we don't have it in the actual system, so we can't pop it up, but maybe it's just something we think about, and as we get feedback, you can kind of give us some answers to. But NLQ type of things, which again, Ayden showed a bunch of that for it. Narrative summaries, forecast, risk and scoring. AI decision advisors is something we're seeing having a lot of different conversations throughout. That's different for every organization we talk to, but how do we take data that we have and be able to use that, apply data models to it, and be able to query that to find answers within that data that we need. Again, which is kind of the purpose of Gen AI, but typically it's specific to data within your organization. And of course, not sure, need help. So maybe this is the next one we'll ask in our next one, because I really would like to get feedback on that. Real quick before we tie this up, some of the main ways that Amtex is working with clients is on this, and we are very involved in these types of conversations. This is one of the things that we're trying to take at least to have this conversation with all the clients that we're working with, because it is such an important part of everybody's roadmap moving forward. Data readiness evaluation, we've talked about that in the very first part of that. That is huge. So how do we actually help our clients look at their data architecture, the data they want to be able to use for these types of things, and make sure they understand where they're at, like we did in the first poll question, where they're at on that journey. And that's something we can definitely work with you with. Use case development, we've got different ways of doing this. IBI is doing some of this too, and some of the POCs that they're working with. And we're more than glad to get Ayden and our teams involved in and POC to kind of walk through some different areas that you may want to look at in POC as far as use case development, just to show what it's like. I will say again, identifying those use cases, like we talked about before, something that that is key to that, so we can help with there as well. But that is huge. How do we implement NLQ, smart search chatbot, automated testing, those type of things again, and what use cases are areas that we work very deeply with clients. Again, starting at the business level to understand where their use cases are and how can we PLC and show how this can be done. And of course, AI committee support, going back to what we just talked about, as you develop committees, no matter what they're called, being able to support them in whatever ways, whether it's just helping them design what those should look like, or being there to help speak at certain things if they have certain topics they want us to talk about, or however we can support in that. Certainly, we are glad to do that. So we're putting together a lot of different products for that, and packages and services. So always glad to talk about how we can help your journey there.